If you're somebody that's been dealing with chronic knee pain for a long period of time, chances are you've been told things like rest, but you can't do too little for too long because that's just gonna make you lose function over time. And if you do too much too soon, then you're gonna flare up. So you keep going through this ebb and flow cycle, and it's called a boom and bust. That's what we say here in the clinic. So if you're looking for a nice gradual progression of stress so that you can slowly build more resilient knees, we're gonna be breaking down a couple of variations that we utilize, that we introduce to our patients that are dealing with something like this. First exercise that we're gonna be doing is a half kneeling push. This is for someone that's very, very sensitive and they have a hard time bringing their knees over toes. This is a great introduction to loading the quad with a more positive shin angle. So Lucas is gonna be in a half kneeling position. All he's gonna do is, I want him to shift his knees slowly forward. The only thing I want is the heel to stay down, and he can't feel any pressure in his knees. The minute that you start to feel some pressure in the knees, slide it back a little bit. And we're looking for an entry point where you're trying to get the shin as far forward as possible without the knee bothering you. If that's okay, all Lucas is gonna do now is you're gonna actively push your foot into the ground and keep your torso nice and upright. And you start to feel a little bit of the quad work right there. So we're just gonna go for a 5-second push. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're gonna shift your weight back. And I want the knee to go behind the ankle. You're gonna shift it forward again to that same position. Actively push. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're gonna go for 5 rounds like that. Couple of ways to modify this, right? You don't have to bring the knee as far forward. You don't have to push with all of your might, right? You can go like 50% effort, 60, 70, 80, and slowly ramp it up to a higher level effort. But the goal with this is we wanna feel quad. People that have been in chronic pain for a long period of time, they just feel a lot of achiness here in the knee joint. We wanna make sure that they start to feel their quad light up a little bit. And something as simple as 5 reps of 5-second pushes can start to increase some blood flow to that area. Second exercise we're gonna do is gonna be a resistance loop leg extension ISO. This is a great exercise to do if you don't have access to a leg extension machine. If you have a leg extension machine, you can easily do the same thing. But with the resistance loop ISO, all we're gonna do is we're gonna strap it around an anchor point. In this case, we're gonna be using a bench. You're gonna need something that's actually pretty decent. Slingshot bands and these thicker fabric bands typically work better than like a really light TheraBand. It's not gonna give enough resistance. So Lucas, all we're gonna do is you're gonna lift your foot like an inch off the ground, and then you're gonna kick against the band slightly past 90, and you're just gonna hold it there for about 45 to 60 seconds, and it should feel like a ton of quad burn. And we're gonna do about 2 to 4 sets of this as a warm-up. And the great thing about long duration isometrics, 45 to 60 seconds, is that they can provide a ton of pain relief. As this gets better, we can start to do other exercises similar to this pattern with more resistance. Once you can hold a long duration isometric with a resistance loop, we can start to transition into the Swiss ball isometric. With the resistance loop, it's based off of how much resistance loop actually has, right? Like we can't really push more into it. But with something like a Swiss ball isometric, you can actually kick as hard as you can into the ball. And with something that's a little bit more compliant and it's got a little bit more air in the ball, it can actually push back against you. So it's a great way to start to load the quad. So Lucas has got this set up here currently. You just gotta anchor the ball to the wall, and you're gonna kick your leg into the ball. And we wanna kind of maintain that 90-degree angle. From this position, he can just hold for about 45 to 60 seconds. As he starts to get really, really good here and really, really strong, we can start to work on kicking as hard as you can for 2 seconds, kick as hard as you can for 2 seconds, and relax. Hard as you can for 2 seconds, and relax. And we'll go for 5 repetitions like that. But we typically go with longer duration isometrics before we go for those more ballistic kicks. One of the best ways to start to train the quad in a very lengthened position is gonna be the prone leg extension. And we're gonna utilize a really thick band for this exercise. So Lucas has got the setup, he's laying on his stomach. And this is an exercise I got from Eric Myra, who's a phenomenal physical therapist. We're gonna anchor the loop around the ankle. And Lucas is gonna hold the band. He's gonna kick his leg out that way. We're not gonna go for the full range. We're gonna come back and we're gonna work in these partial ranges. When we train in a lengthened position, it's great for hypertrophy, but it's also got a great length-tension relationship, so it's a lot more demand to the actual muscle itself. So it's like almost if we were training a bicep here, we wouldn't be able to do much, but we train a bicep in the most lengthened position, it would be very challenging. We're doing the same thing with the quad here. The band is gonna be the limiting factor. So if it's too easy, get a thicker band. You don't have to go with the Rogue bands. You can get these thicker bands off Amazon. And we kind of work between like this 6 to 15 rep range. I'm making sure that as he's doing it, there's an insane quad pump. And once you can do that, you can start to combine bands as well. So instead of using one, use 2 at a time. Working with people when we're training muscles in isolation, one thing we want to do is start to get people more upright. So when it comes to training the quads, a great entry to getting people more upright is going to be the single leg wall sit. So Lucas is just going to stand on one of his legs and he's going to come down and lift one of his legs. Perfect, and we're just going to hold that position. You can also slide from the top down and find a comfortable range, opposed to going to the bottom and lifting one leg. But in this kind of exercise, again, we're working that longer duration. I want 30 to 45 seconds. If that feels good, come back up, Lucas. You can start to come into more of a single leg squat, wall squat. And we're just working more dynamically here. And there's so many ways to modify this. We could take out the weight, we can limit the range, we can make it 2 legs. We can make it stagger stance, so if you just kick your left ankle out, left leg out.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then left heel. So that starts to bias the right side a little bit more. But typically, if you've been able to check all the other things off, you could probably get into single leg wall sit pretty easily and start to work the single leg wall squat with some more weight. This last variation is just disgusting. We're gonna be doing a 90-90 split squat iso, and the main thing that we're focused on is actually gonna be the back leg. Most of the time when people do a split squat or a lunge, they're so focused on a front leg, but the back leg is gonna be where you make a lot of money. So check this out. We're gonna line up 90-degree angle here in the front, 90-degree angle in the back, and we're just gonna lift the back leg an inch off the ground. Beautiful. In this position, you should feel a nasty hip flexor stretch on the back leg. And again, we're working the quad in its most lengthened position. So many different ways to make this a little bit tougher. We could hold a weight overhead. If you lift your right arm, you can start to feel a little bit more load there. We can hold something in goblet, but we typically look for 45-second holds before we start to increase the intensity here. But this is definitely something where if you isolate the back quad, Lucas is still keeping his knee off the ground. This gets really, really tough, not much longer, but these are nice little progressions that you can build up to, so eventually you can handle this variation. There's a ton of different reasons why people have knee pain. A lot of what we did today was isolating the knee itself, but sometimes, well, most of the time, we look at the ankle, we look at the hip, we look at the opposite limb. There's so many things that can potentially contribute to your knee pain. So hopefully you found today's video very, very helpful and you're utilizing some of this step progression to increase your quads capacity and the tolerance at your knee. But if these things aren't working for you, or maybe you're having a hard time finding the quad and feeling it burn and work, you might need something a little bit more specific than this. So feel free to look at our description down below, and we have a link there where you can schedule a free discovery call and you can talk to one of our therapists and see if what we do is a right fit for what you're experiencing.